Okay guys, new ND2 2019 Miata. This is the Grand Touring. It's got the sport suspension, limited slip differential on the back. Proper driver's, loaded driver's edition of this car. It probably comes in, I don't have a Monroney for this week, but it probably comes in around 32 grand. Lighter weight due to the soft top. We're on Blizzak winter tires, so we have a little bit less grip today. And as a result, we're gonna have a little bit more fun because this thing is a tail-happy hoonigan. It's a fun little car. There's a lot to talk about and a lot I want to go over. I've developed some opinions on this after spending a few days and putting a couple hundred miles on it. And it's kind of a mixed bag. Things I love, things I'm not so crazy about, things that I'm willing to just live with. It's very interesting. This is truly a great sports car, but let's delve into it and let's get behind the wheel. So, first thing you notice, I'm not going to go over all the new stuff with this car. I'll put some info in the description, but this telescoping steering wheel, just so you can see its range of motion, it's pretty good. Taller drivers should be quite comfortable in here. I kind of like the wheel a little bit higher up, so I have room to heel and toe with my legs. And you can get a really nice, comfortable driving position in this, even though your range of motion in the seat forward and backward is kind of limited for taller drivers. But at least you have room for your knees. Second thing you'll notice, the door has 2 stops instead of its previous 3. So it's a little bit easier to open and get out of in tight parking spaces. Nice feature, very thoughtful. Now, as you can see, this has a ton of tech in it. Mazda's Infotainment, it's kind of a mixed bag. Some things I like, some things I don't like. It requires a little bit more involvement and attention than I would prefer. We'll see. Still no Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto, which is kind of a shame. Hopefully that gets introduced in the next year or two. You have lane keep assist, traction control off is just one button. You just press it once and it's all off, which is amazing. First thing I tend to do in these cars. And we've got a reverse camera. You guys have seen this before on other videos. It's not very good. It's usually overexposed, but it works. You can see what's directly behind you. I would say, compared to the RF, visibility in this ragtop is actually a little bit better. I'd like to do a little bit of a comparison between this car and the RF. My mom has a 2017 RF, and kind of be interesting to see the differences between the two. But for this video, let's just go over this car, because this is kind of, the power to weight ratio on this is fantastic. This is such a phenomenal driver's car. And it's actually really fun to drive on these winter tires. I'm noticing slightly better steering feel. So the ND, the first generation cars, the steering was super numb. I didn't have a lot of feel, and I'm noticing this better feel with winter tires. So I'm hoping they fixed it. The Fiat 124 Spider always had the better steering, and I'm hoping that that's kind of carried over into this Miata, and I think it has. From the feel of it, it's really, really quite good. I have really good communication through the front end. I know exactly what's going on, and there is a lot of slip from the rear. On winter tires, you can make this thing drift on demand. It's quite tail happy, and it keeps you awake. The Miata is no longer a car that you can just go flat out everywhere. You have to plan your full throttle applications in this car. You have to be careful of the exit speed and their throttle application on apexes, because the tail steps out. The Bilstein suspension on this feels a little bit stiffer than the RF. It feels a little bit more dialed in. It's like it has a big rear bar. You get a lot of movement and motion from the rear end, and as a result, there's very little understeer, if any understeer, but it's a really, really good balance. This car is just super, super well dialed in. And well, I'll show you around some entrance ramps. We're kind of in a low grip situation today. It's about 37 degrees Fahrenheit. We're on winter tires. It's a little bit greasy out. But it kind of shows the dynamics of the car and how it's going to react at the limit, which is a good thing. Once you get to the limit, it's very controllable, but it can be a little bit scary if you're not used to it, because you're always kind of driving opposite lock. You're always counter steering, but you can really balance it very well with the throttle, which is pretty awesome. While we're stopped here, let's talk a little about some other things. Love the climate control. Automatic climate control works really well. The steering wheel controls, I think, are out of the way enough that you're not going to like hit them when you're sliding around or moving the wheel a lot. One thing I noticed that's kind of irritating to me personally is the volume up and down button is very small, and it's very easy to hit the voice activation, which basically just puts you into say a command mode, and you have to hit hang up when you're just really trying to change the volume. Alright, back to fun things. Really good brakes, but you can just see how well you can just balance this thing on and off throttle. It's so awesome. Little bit of a, there we go, and the power. That new red line is just, it feels like it just revs to the moon now. It's higher than you think. It's kind of a little S2000-esque in the sense that it's going. Oh, there's a little bit more in that last 200-300 RPM. It sounds phenomenal. I wish there were just a little bit more volume from the exhaust. I know Mazda retuned the exhaust system on this MD, but I'm not really noticing any different sound. I think they just kind of increased the flow, made it perform a little bit better. So initially, one of my big questions is, with the ragtop, is how's the wind noise? The RF is really nice because there's much less wind noise, but at the same time, it adds a little bit of weight. I'm happy to report that the wind noise in this car is actually quite good. I took my fiance out to Ann Arbor last night, and we could hold a conversation very easily in this car with the music on. So it's fine, it's comfortable, it's livable. It's loud in here, it's not quiet, that's for sure. It's still a soft top, but as you can hear, hopefully if you're wearing headphones, it's pretty good. And of course, as always, best shifter in the business. It's phenomenal. Pedals are perfectly positioned for heel and toe downshifts. It's just, this is an absolute sweetheart of a car. But, you know, the personality of this Miata has changed. It's different. It's not the momentum slow car fast anymore. This is a little bit of a drift machine. I mean, you put some stickier rubber on here and it would be fine. It would solve all the issues. But on these winter tires, on these Blizzaks, it's pretty tail happy. Also, this is now a car with this extra power. This is a car you can get into some trouble with. It's no longer go everywhere flat out, floor it over everything. You're gonna drift around corners. You're gonna speed. It's got good torque in sixth gear. You can pass. You can fly around things. The personality of the Miata has evolved to a point where this is a proper sports car now. It's got the capabilities, just about as much capability as you would want out of a sports car, I think, of this type, of this genre, of this lightweight, rear-wheel drive, flickable tool of a roadster. It's really good. Throw some sticky tires on this thing, you would have a track day weapon. This car just is going to blow some stuff out of the water that people didn't even see coming. I think these Bilstein dampers are a little bit stiffer. You might be in pretty good shape with some track tires just with this suspension setup. There's not as much body roll. It's pretty tight. It's pretty good. It's good suspension. It's a little bit rougher over bumps, but it's definitely livable. And I think it's a little bit stiffer than the RF suspension too. This is kind of the sportiest version of the Miata, I think. And honestly, I'm really having a tough time deciding between the RF or this. Between, what would I buy? What would I choose? The performance is just, it's the quickest Miata ever made by a long shot. And but it's definitely changed the purpose and the character of this car in a good way. I think this is good progress, and it's a good direction for Mazda to take this car. All the technology is nice, and it gives a little bit of a air of sophistication and luxury to this car that it never really had before. But sometimes it can get into the way a little bit, but ultimately it makes it for a little bit more of a livable proposition, I think. Okay. That was a lot. That was a lot to throw at you guys. I realized that, but there's just a lot that I wanted to put into this video and tell you about. I think this is one of the best sports cars on sale today. These things are so potent, so tunable. There's a great aftermarket with these vehicles. You can do full suspension, you can do engine swaps, you can do whatever the heck you want. And it's a pretty tempting proposition for me too, even with a BRZ. I think, you guys have seen these videos, you've seen how it drives. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think this is a heck of an evolution for the Miata. It's not perfect, it definitely has some shortcomings, but it never has been perfect, and that's kind of what makes it a little bit more charming. Okay, all good things. We'll talk to you guys later. My phone is blowing up. Take care.